morning, or everybody who woke up from the celebration. Um, I couldn't miss the Pluto-Venus conjunction, 27 degrees Capricorn, and I was thinking to do Monica Lewinsky's chart for a while, and I thought, hey, why not pick that transit to do so? So, in the spirit of matter, I did not prepare, and I'm doing an extra experiment right now, which I hope you can hear me because I'm in a central station and I'm about to take the bus home. So I might turn off the camera when I reach my area. And yeah, and that's how it's going to be. More of a mundane type of editing and recording. Without further ado, that's Monica Lewinsky, which we all know by one case, but let's look at who is Monica Lewinsky other than that one case that we know her by. And as usual, I'm going to open Wikipedia and I'm going to read about Monica. Miss Lewinsky, I guess that depends on the culture. Israeli, pardon. And make predictions, and then I'm going to look at the chart. Okay, so you want to stay up for the chart, and I might put the timestamp where I get to the chart if you only want the chart analysis, and see which of my predictions are borne out. So, Monica Samuel Lewinsky, Samuel, born in July 23rd, so we already know her son, 1973, is an American activist and writer. President Bill Clinton admitted to having an affair with Lewinsky while she worked at the White House as an intern during 1995 and 1996, so for 2 years internship. The affair and its repercussions, which included Clinton's impeachment, became known later as the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. Because this is what you might remember from high school if you're around my Pluto generation, or younger, if you know the case. You probably do, you probably heard about it. So, as a result of the public coverage of the political scandal, Lewinsky gained international celebrity status. She subsequently engaged in a variety of ventures, which included designing a line of handbags. So this is interesting. I know a lot of celebrities turn to fashion, but we must understand that celebrity is Venusian involved. It's both mercurial and Venusian. And here we go. I'm gonna turn the camera off. So, not to security people. Hola. Thank you. So, I hope I'll remember to go to my station when I'm recording. And here we go. So, travel with me. So owning a business to do with fashion is Venusian. That could be Taurus Venus, that can be Libra Venus, or that can be that she would have, like, if you think about businesses that you own, it might be the second house, so a second house Libra or second house Taurus, or even second house Venus. In any case, that immediately comes up. I would expect a hard Pluto-Venus aspect, and she was born, I believe, within the range of Pluto sextile Neptune, and that is also super important because not only was she dealing with tremendous power inequalities, but the context for Neptune is such that there can be a leak of something. Neptune leaks stuff. So we see it often in the chart of spies, of people who leak information. And so I guess that would be the effect of the Pluto-Venus hard aspect in the context of Pluto's sextile Neptune. I would also expect Neptune to be, I don't know if prominent in the chart, but again, because of that aspect of the leaked information, it can be something that is sudden loss or sudden, like absolutely outer planets involved. I don't know if that's Neptune, but it might be. So she gained a celebrity status. She engaged in a variety of ventures. We talked about her design, serving as an advertising spokesman for Diet Plan. Okay, that's interesting. So definitely something about food and working as a television personality. Okay, so working as a host, I guess. Lewinsky later left the public spotlight to pursue a master's degree in psychology in London. Again, yet another Pluto thing. So she could be having like Rahu in the ninth, because it seems to me like she only turned to studies or to academic studies after like perhaps years after what happened in her work, or to complete another degree. So there's something inconsistent about her academic education, because if she worked as an intern, she was probably doing an academic degree. And so I would expect something in the ninth house. I would expect, it can be that Pluto is in the 10th, or that Venus in the 10th, or maybe a Venus conjunct Pluto like we are now, maybe even in Capricorn, okay? In 2014, she returned to public view as a social activist, speaking about cyberbullying. So again, we talked about that leaking stuff. And this is a Mercury Venus. So speaking about Mercury stuff. And now we're in Mercury retrograde in Gemini, who's just left the tip of Aldebaran. And there can be a Mars Gemini, a Mars retrograde there. Like it can be another additive to the context, because the way she was framed, she was battling framing battles. That's what I know about the case. So let's talk about her early life. She was living in San Francisco, California, and grew up in an affluent family in Southern California, in the West Side Brentwood area of Los Angeles. So she was born in San Francisco and then grew up in Los Angeles, came from a wealthy family. It can be that even, because Bill Clinton was someone she was working with, and he could have been a solar figure in her life. So it can be she has either Sun in the 10th house, or some aspects with the Sun in the 10th, or the Sun in the 10th is affecting her life. Because she came from a family, or she would run to that, or maybe somebody's like a Sun Pluto conjunction, or a Sun Pluto hard aspect with Venus hard aspecting, or maybe combustion of Venus and the Sun, and then conjunction with the Venus and Pluto, something like that. Her father, Bernard Lewinsky, was an oncologist who is the son of German Jews who escaped from Nazi Germany. So she's third generation. First moved into El Salvador and then finally to the United States when he was 14. Okay. Her mother, born Marcia K. Lewinsky, is an author who uses the name Marcia Lewis. So her mother is an author, and her father is an oncologist. So oncologist, well, cancer has something to do with the benefics. It's something that grows. It might have something to do with the moon, because there is, on a holistic level, meeting our emotional needs contributes to coping with or healing from cancer, not instead of treatment, of course. And that might be something there with the moon, that the moon is the father. So that's interesting. That is interesting. Can even be moon in Leo. Okay, to do with the luminaries, highly things, and to do with the benefics. So that could be a Venus, that could be a Jupiter as well. So moon Jupiter maybe. So okay. And wait, I'm skipping here. Her mother is an author. So that would mean either 10th house to do with Mercury, ruler of the 10th to do with Mercury, moon Mercury. Okay, so writing is a skill that she knew from the family. In 1996, she wrote a gossip biography, The Private Lives of Three Tenors. Okay, so not only the mother and like Yellow Pages stuff, as far as I understand from here. So that can also be a Venus, Pluto, Mercury there. Okay. And that could be hard aspects. Like, I don't expect that to be a trine. It may be between Mercury and Pluto. I think Mercury Pluto also has a hard aspect, and I don't necessarily think it's a conjunction. It can be either the conjunction, the opposition, or the square. Oh, it's getting crowded. So this is a total experimental. And I'm not the only one speaking here. Oh, they're going down, yeah. Okay, Lily. Okay, very good. Everyone healthy. So, Lewinsky's maternal grandfather, Samuel M. Wilenski, was a Lithuanian Jew. And her maternal grandmother, wow, she has the whole family tree. Bronia Polishuk was born in the British concession of Tianjin, China, to a Russian Jewish family. Lewinsky's parents divorced in 1988 and each has remarried. So she has been through, well, divorce is something we immediately associate with Uranus, but that is for the parents. And that would mean to me that both her luminaries can be associated with Uranus by aspect. Okay. And it might be a hard aspect. Okay, it can be a hard aspect. Hard aspect does not mean harsh divorce necessarily. It just means that there can be divorce. And yeah, that sort of separation. The family attended Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, and Lewinsky attended Sinai Akiva Academy, the school affiliated with the temple. So the education was around the temple. Okay, so Orthodox family. For primary education, she attended John Thomas Dye School in Bel Air. Lewinsky attended Beverly Hills High School for 3 years before transferring to Bel Air Prep. So her education was also considered posh, I guess. I don't know what's the American term for that. It's interesting. Like, I wonder if I should conclude from that uh, Bill Clinton was a solar figure that's connected with her education, but I'd see it that way. And then that would be in connection with the ninth house. Okay. Well, he definitely was somebody whose events around him were a pivotal point in her worldview, probably. So it definitely was a person who affected the worldview, but that can also be from a solar figure. Okay. So there can be something with the sun and the ninth house. Following her high school graduation, Lewinsky attended Santa Monica College. During this time, she wrote for the drama department at Beverly Hills High School and at the tie shop. In 1992, she allegedly began a 5-year affair with Andy Baylor. Okay. He married former high school drama instructor. Her married former high school drama instructor. So this tells me that it can be, because it's an affair, so it can be the ruler of the ruler of the 5th in the 9th, or Mars in the 9th. Okay, so this is something that's ongoing for her. Okay, somebody who was an authority figure, solar Saturnian, drama school instructor. I think it's a solar figure, some solar. So maybe the sun rules the 5th here and is in the 9th, or in the 10th. But there is the 9th and the 10th. They're together there. In 1993, she enrolled at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, graduating with a bachelor degree in psychology in 1995. In an appearance in 2000, she revealed that she started when years old. And that affair continued while she was attending Lewis and Clark in the early 1990s. She did not disclose the man's identity. Okay, this is something we also need to understand. So this is definitely a Venus-Pluto thing, and that's something very important about her. She was not the type of person who necessarily sought to get famous by exposing the secret life of a person. After her, we wouldn't know that her affair was Clinton. The assistance of a family connection, Lewinsky secured an summer White House internship in the office of White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta. Okay, and we understand that to that she comes after already having had an affair with someone who was seriously older. So they're seriously older. The age gap is not just the Pluto thing, and that's it. This is so Pluto and Capricorn, but again, she was not born with Pluto and Capricorn. That's a Saturn thing. So maybe Saturn, but it's not the 7th. Or it can be the 7th. There's just something interesting with Saturn going on. So as a ruler of the 5th can be in the 9th. 9th and 10th are connected. The sun is prominent in the chart, probably with Pluto. Mercury, probably hard aspect in Pluto. Uranus probably creating some aspects with the luminaries, one or both, like predict both. And of course, Venus, Pluto, it can be a conjunction or one of the hard aspects, so a square or an opposition. I tend to believe it's a conjunction because she seems to embody the spirit of Pluto or the desire to a power figure in a way that is very cultivated, in a way that is very like radically accepting, and not so much Like I remember she said she didn't hate Bill Clinton or anything. She's very self-aware. So it's not the Pluto who feels, God forbid, violated by this. So that's not, perhaps that's not. I don't know what her experience is, but hopefully that's not. It doesn't mean that there was no, you know, crime. It's just the experience of the person, and it's nothing, necessarily harmful. That her experience protects her from feeling, other things that really want her to feel. um, Lewinsky moved to Washington, D.C. and took up the position in July 1990. She moved to a paid posting in the White House Office of Legislative Affairs in 1995. That's what I'm getting from this, because I just realized I'm doing this in public transportation. It's a bus, it's a local bus, but I just now it comes to my mind, perhaps I shouldn't be doing that in public transportation, and that would be better done in a car, but not when I'm reading. Like, I like the notion of maybe a private airplane. Like, if I get a private airplane, I can do this and it wouldn't bother anyone. So I'm very close to arrive, and so I'm hoping I'm not that disturbing others. I believe we switched to Mars right now, so let's just look at the chart. Haven't we switched to Mars? Oh no, we still have 24 minutes. So yeah, this is why I wanted the Jupiter hour. No, I can't look at it. Can't look at it. Mercury retrograde. Okay, I haven't seen it. Just predictions. You might tell if I'm right or not. So Clinton would, and interesting, she counted them in the Oval Office between, oh yeah, between November 95 and March 97. According to her testimony, these involved fellatio, oh my gosh, and other sexual acts, but not sexual intercourse. Okay, as if it matters. So Clinton has previously been confronted with allegation of sexual misconduct during his time as governor of Arkansas. So we know about Bill Clinton that that he had a tendency to have these quote-unquote affairs. And okay, so Bill Clinton had a tendency to have affairs. Monica Lewinsky had a tendency to have affairs with people who were boss figures to her, and that was just a dynamic playing out. So for her, definitely something going on in the 10th. So it could be Venus in the 10th, like I said, the Venus-Pluto thing. Yeah. So this is the Bill. Mind you, if I skip the Bill Clinton, because we heard about it so much that I wonder, oh well, but it is a Pluto thingy. Okay, Pluto, Venus. Then okay. News of the Pluto-Lewinsky relationship broke in January 1998. On January 26, 1998. But the line that we know. It's opened in the media. News of Lewinsky's affair with Andy Blyler, her former high school drama instructor, also came to light. And he turned over to Star various souvenirs, photographs, and documents that Lewinsky had sent him and his wife during the time that she was in the White House. So Clinton defend, like, it's just not an episode about Bill Clinton. So he was an important figure for many other things he did other than whatever was in his pants. It's just not an episode about him. So, okay, then we know he was lying. And yeah, again, so Clinton and Lewinsky were both called before a grand jury. He testified via closed circuit television. Okay, there's something I call the Bill Clinton configuration, and I haven't seen the chart of Bill Clinton. I might do it. And that's when the ruler of the 12th is in your 10th, because the 12th house is secret bed stuff, and the 10th just means you can't hide it. It's public. So with the midheaven. So I would expect both for Bill and for Monica Lewinsky to have the ruler of the 12th either in the 10th or with the midheaven. And so that is what I have to say about that scandal. Life after the scandal. So the affair led pop culture, celebrity for Lewinsky, as she had become the focus. Her immunity agreement restricted what she could talk about publicly, but she was able to cooperate with Andrew Morgan in his writing of Monica's story. So basically, things leaked, and her response for that was, well, okay, now I got this exposure, now I got this big moment, and so I'll do what I can to take advantage for that in a good way, sort of like like the lemon and the lemonade. So it wasn't necessarily that she was seeking like yellow stuff or yellow tabloid or yellow this or yellow that. It was more like she was just drawn to these men. Hopefully that was the case. Had affairs with them and just enjoyed that as a part of her life. And then when she had the chance to break out or to break into being known or being public or being a celebrity, she was also an opportunist in quote unquote finessing that, even though that was undesired. So there's definitely something Plutonian, transformative, but also Uranian, because Uranus does make some rise to fame that is unexpected. Okay, like you rose to fame, but instead of for all the things that you did and for all that you achieved, which she did, she had a lot of education. So instead of being acknowledged for that, there's just something breaks around your sex life that is public, and now you have now you have the limelight, and you just take advantage of that. So I'm sitting here with the moon, underneath the moon, and Mars, I believe. It's Mars, I believe. Okay. So there's this money that she made out of it, Showtime, business, the limelight. So she took advantage. Okay, she did something that was opportunist, and was also like, hey, why should I bitch about somebody leaking my stuff when I can, enjoy the limelight and be famous? And that's where she took it, which you need a lot of strength for, because hey, that is your sexual life that you have to testify on what acts like you. This is so fucking weird in so many ways. Okay, so there were all these shows that she was a part of, and they were around sexuality in the 29 degrees of Cancer. So yeah, that I don't know what Lilith she has or where would Lilith be, and I don't know to like. I don't think I made previously Lilith predictions, um, but definitely we'll see how the Lilith. We can expect the involvement of Lilith here, um, because with Lilith she just goes after her desires. And although you don't need Lilith to analyze this chart, um, there's something very whole about for Lilith about who she is. It's like, yeah, I have a desirous nature. Yeah, I go after what I want, and so on and so forth. It's like there's something very natural about that. It's not. Um, mm, 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 mm. So, arguing from 3 generations of women whether Lewinsky's behavior had any meaning for feminism. Okay. In 1999, Lewinsky declined to sign an autograph in an airport saying, I'm kind of known for something that's not so great to be known for. So she was like, okay, I know, like, it seems like very authentic and very um, like a nice person to speak to. She's like, well, I did that thing. This sentence kind of makes me feel like, like a teenager that, did a stunt. And she's like, well, I don't know if you want my autograph because I don't want to teach that to other people. So she's like half mature and taking accountability and half um, and have like absolutely not apologetic for what she did, uh, and from more feminist perspective, why should she be, right? So some people would say, oh, she was finessing. Other people would say, well, there was a huge power gap here, and there was no, like, thanks God she's okay. Like, she's not the problem here. There was like, why? How is she even being put to criticism here? And thanks God she's okay, having experienced all these things with men that could have ended in a way that is drastically less, positive. Like even what happened to her with Bill Clinton, fortunately was not well. Like the people who breached the boundaries were not Bill Clinton. Other like absolutely reached every boundary, but like he wasn't sexually violent in the face of that. And with these stories, a lot of times, unfortunately, there's sex trade, there's human trafficking. There are many things that people can be naive or fall in love or whatnot, and end up in situations that are quite dangerous, again, because of the power gap. It's very easy to make someone disappear, and unfortunately that happens to many women. So I'm very grateful that she survived. But from her point of view, she was like, she's so modest, because she's like, oh, like, hey, I did something I'm not supposed to. And I like that. I like that. I really like that, like, there's just down to earth person. So yeah, she made a cameo appearance as herself in 2 sketches during the 8th 1999 Saturday Live, a program that had lampooned her relationship with Clinton over the prior. I don't know what is lampooned, but I guess what the meaning of it is. And again, I want to know beyond Bill Clinton. She had survived the intense media attention during the scandal period by knitting. So knitting a sweater. Oh my gosh, this is cute. So knitting a sweater is something like, this is so, I don't even know, like knitting, I think, this sounds like a Mars Mercury thing even, because although clothes, Kleidung is, Venusian, you know. They can be Mars Venus, but I would even expect Mars Venus, like whatever her Mars Venus aspect, she handled them well. And there was a Mercury involved, so working with the hands and the needles that are like Mars thingy, but they're making clothes. This is so cute. Um, yeah, this is so interesting. So her son, we know, is in Leo, right? She was born in, was it July 23rd? Was it July or was it June? Because that would make her Cancer. Oh, damn. Okay, but it's good that I don't remember. In September 1999, she took this interest further by beginning to sell a line of handbags bearing her name. So she was like doing a therapy that became a business. And I can ascribe that to the Mercury Pluto things, like your therapy, because your therapeutic, what you do therapeutically becomes what you make money for. Um, but that's just so pretty. Yeah. Under the company name The Real Monica Inc., they were sold online as well as Henry Bendel in New York, Fred Siegel in California, and The Cross in London. So she managed to sell overseas. Lewinsky designed the bags described by the New York Times as hippie-ish, reversible totes, and traveled for what is totes? Totes. Thank you. It just describes as it's totes. Let's see what's that. What is that? Like slippers and okay. Oh, okay. I got it. Totes. Um, and traveled frequently to surprise their manufacturer in Louisiana. Okay. And she was a business owner, an entrepreneur. And to her, it's like whatever motivates me, whatever advances my business, whatever, you know, whatever makes me accomplish something that I like doing, that's good for me, then, or it can also be that she was like maybe even a bit looking for herself, and that then found herself in business in this way. Was that um okay, after the start of 2000, Lewinsky began appearing in television commercials for the diet company Jenny Craig Inc., the 1 million endorsement deal, which required Lewinsky to lose 40 or more pounds in 6 months. That is questionable. I always dislike it when they do that to actors or to people. It's like the problem is not that you need to lose weight, um, but the big issue is like the time frame, because that's very unhealthy and it's also very unnerving to the entire system. Gained considerable publicity. So, Lewinsky said that despite her desire to return to a more private life, she needed the money to pay off legal fees, and she believed in the product. What, like, was she litigated for what? Like, for what, like, for the explosion happened that she wasn't even to blame for? Like, why did she have legal, like, let's look about that as a society. What were those legal fees from? Why did she have to pay a legal fee, you know? That's weird, because this should be on the person at the top position to do that, and not the top position in the organization to do that, and not the person who's subordinate to them. It's like, oh, one of the I don't know, employees in your office had an affair with the boss, um, and there's a tremendous gap between them in terms of not just age but financial. And that's like, well, that 18 years old or 22 years old student should pay a legal fee for having an affair with the boss. This is so, I wanted to say feudal, um, but yeah, like this is entirely fucked up that I can't even begin like to describe. Um, like this is so entirely fucked up. Why should a person be responsible for something that someone at the top of the organization did? And yeah, this is so fucked up. So, Jenny Craig's spokesperson of Lewinsky said she represents a busy, active woman of today with a hectic lifestyle, and she has had weight issues and weight struggles for a long time. That represents a lot of women in America. The choice for Lewinsky as a role model proved controversial for Jenny Craig, and some of its private franchises switched to an older advertising campaign. Okay, the classical story of I don't, well, normally I would say victim blaming, but when I say it here, I mean victim blaming also of the media because of the way she was framed. So I don't speak for her experience. Um, but yeah, and he like this is the classic fuckery of society that children grow into. Um, so the company stopped running the Lewinsky ads in February 2000, concluded the campaign entirely in April, and paid her only $300,000 of the $1 million contracted for her involvement. Um, Also, at the start of 2000, Lewinsky moved to New York City and lived in West Village, became an A-list guest in the Manhattan Social Society. In February 2000, she appeared on MTV at the Tom Green Show, um, in which the host took her to his parents' home in Ottawa in search of fabric for her new handbag business. Interesting. So fabric, traveling, like a business that has to do, well, I'm not sure it's like overseas. The fabric is very Venusian again. So later she worked as a correspondent for Channel 5, showing US culture and trends from a variety of locations. And two, Lewinsky, no longer bound by the term of her immunity agreement, appeared in the HBO Monica in Black and White, and she answered the audience question about her life and the Clinton affair. Okay, so this is another fuckery, and this is the White House, and this is every organization with the immunity affair, like the immunity agreement. If a person in the White House has the right to do whatever, and that person cannot speak, and usually the person dies, like the other, something happens to them by the time that they can speak, then that's a great loophole that we have. Okay, and I'm looking at this as Pluto is hitting the final point for its return in the Sibley chart. It's about to hit, if I'm not mistaken. It was 28 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a legislative loophole because that means that they can do so many things. And like, hey, if there was, in here it was a sex scandal, but this could have been a sexual violation. Okay, what if it was a Me Too case? She would not be able to speak. Okay, this is not, this is, remnants of feudal systems, of slave systems, and so on and so forth that need to be like overthrown. So she hosted a reality television dating program, Mr. Personality, for Fox Television Network. She advised young women contestants who were picking men hidden by masks. Some Americans tried to organize a boycott and advertisers on the show to protest Lewinsky's capitalizing on her notoriety. So again, what notoriety? This is where it all begins, like what notoriety? And her was when Pluto was still moving between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And being born in 73, that was her Pluto Virgo. So, yeah, in 2002, again, Pluto Sagittarius. So while people were looking more at Bill Clinton saying, well, he was wrong, still everything that was supposed to happen with why are we why are we shaming a young woman that had an affair with an older man? Why are we shaming that? Why are we putting the adult hat on the person who is not yet ready to wear it in that type of adulthood, or in that type of fashion? Why do we place a person who is subordinate to someone, not in a kinky game, in reality, to someone who has a higher position of power over them? Okay, it's a very big, the world is upside down. Here I talk about the world is upside down. It's not my saying, of course, the phrase, but this is another example of the world is upside down. A guy that could be her father had an affair with her. Thank God she was not hurt, experienced, being violated by him by that. And she, we put the spotlight on her. Would we do the same if that was a woman? Or would we say, oh, well, that young lad, he just, the hormones, they were running. Probably that's what we do. He would not think that, oh, wait, the hormones, they were running, but there was also a certain dynamic that is inherently not safe for that young lad to be in when there's somebody in a higher position and wealth and status than them. So, yeah, people actually boycotted anybody who would give her the limelight. It's she shouldn't capitalize. Well, she needs to make money. She needs to make money. Some Americans tried to organize a boycott. Yeah, we said. Nevertheless, the show debuted to very high ratings, and it's Alessandra Stanley in the New York Times wrote, after years of trying to cash in on her fame by designing handbags and other self-marketing schemes, Ms. Lewinsky has finally found a fitting niche on television. Okay, so she found a place where she can express herself. The same year she appeared as a guest. Okay, it's just another appearance. Then 2004, oh, there's his autobiography. Again commenting. Okay, so that's her comment on what happened. She's important. Her voice. He could have made it right with the book, but he hasn't. He is a revisionist of history, has lied. I really didn't expect him to go into detail of a relationship, but if he had and he'd done it honestly, I wouldn't have minded. I did, though, at least expect him to correct the false statements made when he was trying to protect the presidency. Instead, he talked about it as though I had laid it all out there for the taking. Um, Again, this vision. Okay, and that, I believe, was Bill Clinton's words of position. So, that those, like, even the men that are considered attractive or appealing to the crowd are, like, don't know how to get it on with a woman, in a way that she's feeling respected, whatever happens. Just what is attractive about a partner is that you feel like that you feel you're safe with them, whatever happens. This is what creates good sex. Huh? But unfortunately, he missed that. Um, Instead, he talked about it as though I had let it all out there for the taking. I was the buffet, and he just couldn't resist the dessert. Buffett, like Warren Buffett. The buffet, and he just couldn't resist the dessert. This was a mutual relationship, mutual on all levels, right from the way it started and all the way through. I don't accept that he had to completely desecrate my character. Again, he sold his grandmama for whatnot. And all the while, she did not present him in that way. Like, she really did not, like, as I remember of whatever she said, she never presented him in bad light. Okay, she never spoke about him, she never tarnished him, and, and this was, as far as I understood from her experience, an affair. So, of course, like, if this was an affair that she had her own experience, then there shouldn't be a reason why he would tarnish her name. It's like, you fucked up, okay. Like, okay, you're human, and you did something that you absolutely weren't supposed to. Thank God she did not feel violated. You don't have to make her feel violated for not feeling violated, So, yeah. So this whole thing is a theme. And I'm looking for an outer planet here because this deals with like the way we see people. And again, this was exposed during Pluto Sagittarius. Maybe I should look at the Venus synodic cycle and the Venus Pluto, like Venus Pluto conjunctions. So they conjunct and then they could just, like, when Venus leaves a conjunction or enters a conjunction with Pluto, it's not only there is an 8 years. So let's think about 8 years. So they made like 94. That would be 8 years. 94 is 2002. There was another pivotal moment. So 8 years, the immunity thingy, and then she could finally speak. Okay, so 2002. Then another 8 years, that would be 2010. So we need to see what happens here in 2010. And see the cycles of Venus around here. Well, it'd be more difficult for me to check but I might manage to. In December 2006, she graduated with a Master of Science degree. Her thesis title was In Search of the Imperial Juror, an exploration of the third-person effect and the pre-trial publicity. Okay, she was definitely writing her heart out. For the next decade, she tried to avoid publicity. Okay, so that was definitely the okay, this is 2009. That was definitely the cycle where she decided to leave the limelight. So she had a cycle of limelight, like 8 years of dealing with limelight and the harsh public effects of her Venus. Then the Venus Pluto was expressed as the hidden again. Okay, and that happened while she learned psychology. So she expressed the Pluto power throughout that time in studies, in psychology, and then Pluto will enter Capricorn in 2008. So she graduated already in 2000 when Pluto was in Sagittarius, not surprisingly. And she will, yeah. And let's see what happens in around 2010. So Lewinsky did correspond in 2009 with Ken Gormelli, who was the study of the Clinton scandals, maintaining that Clinton had both and so on and so forth. In 2013, the item associated with Lewinsky that Blyler has turned over, blah, 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 were put up for auctions by Blyler's ex-wife. So nothing happens in 2010 publicly. So let's talk about the public reemergence. May 2014. So this is 20 years after she met with Bill Clinton. Okay, the news broke out in 97 or 98. 98. So you can try to switch it around. Like it would probably be around the Venus cycle. That's why I'm looking for that. She wrote an essay for Vanity Fair titled Shame and Survival that I remember, when she discussed her life and the scandals. She continued to maintain that the relationship was mutual and wrote that while Clinton took advantage of her, it was a consensual relationship. Yes, so it was very important for her to, hopefully this means that she was just, not compromising her authenticity here, and not hiding anything. So hopefully that is the case. She added, I myself deeply regret what happened between me and President Clinton. Let me say it again. I myself deeply regret what happened. So this is like the paraphrase, okay? Like from her side. It's like, that's what you should have said, Bill Clinton, in other words. And moreover, she said it was now time to stick my head above the people, a purpose to my past. Okay, so there's just, she had affairs, and there's just one affair that is exceptionally big, that becomes a pivotal moment in her life. And Mars here in Gemini, 8 degrees Gemini reflective, stationing to be direct. Is it already stationing? Because I believe it should be soon. And moon growing in Taurus. The moon is about to enter Uranus. I think it's about to conjunct with Uranus. So something unusual, but it's not like you're revealing something. It's reflecting on something. I'm trying to look at the time, at the context of why am I looking at it now? Why was it? And it was building because figured, I don't remember, I think it was 1 week, 2 weeks ago, I was like, hey, I was only covering men, it's time to give voice to the women. And then with the Venus Pluto, I was like, come on, let's do Monica Lewinsky without the Bill Clinton. Um, in October 2014, she took a public stand against harassment. And she was. Um, and this is a beautiful moment because here we are reflecting on it during Mars retrograde in Gemini that's about to go direct, and the frame wars and um, the news, the media, how we frame people, how we bully people. And there's a difference between if I, just yesterday when I recorded my conclusions for 2023, and I talked about the charts that I remember most. So one of these charts was Peter de Vries, and I said, well, to me, Peter de Vries was using a camera to show invisible and to put the spotlight on those people whose murders nobody would see and nobody would know of, and so expose something from tending to the common people, from tending to those cases that nobody tends to, with the camera, with his big persona, very star-like quality that was building over the years. And just learning the craft of being a public figure along the years. And here with Monica Lewinsky, what she was doing is using the media as a vehicle of empowerment and regeneration. That's a very Mercury Pluto from another angle. And if the Mercury Pluto of the hard aspect Mercury Pluto of the Vries was looking at that which is taboo, at that which you don't want to look at, that which you turn your eyes away, and exposing that, with Monica Lewinsky, she was exposed and mistreated. And what she does was using Pluto, she's another Pluto Virgo person. Yeah, I believe, yeah, she should be Pluto Virgo at the end of Pluto Virgo. I don't think she's Pluto Libra. So that is already using Pluto as a vehicle for regeneration, using media as a vehicle for regeneration. And the mercurial art as transforming, like this, that trauma happened in the media, because it happened in the media. Fortunately for her, it didn't happen in the bedroom, it happened in the media. This is what she says, and I believe her, and I respect her testimonial on her case. And the rejuvenation, the reintegration, the deep transformation that's very Plutonic is happening, again, it's happening in the media. So she did Pluto from the psychological perspective, from it can be that maybe she has like ascendant Taurus and Scorpio, or maybe like Scorpio in the 5th house, and then she would have ascendant Cancer, or Scorpio in the 7th house, and then she would have ascendant Taurus. But the moon is in Taurus, so it has ascendant Taurus, or just something there with Pluto being the ruler of one of her houses, and but being placed, yeah, where would Pluto be placed in terms of houses? Well, I don't know. But it's probably the 10th. So if if she has a Scorpio 7th house, then no. Oh well, yeah. Computing charts. Great, Shelley. Computing charts for Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde. Of course, you're going to figure out everything. Um, but it's very interesting to do prediction right now. So, so again, that year she was speaking in Forbes in 30 Under 30 summit about her experience. She said, having survived myself, what I want to do now is help other victims of the shame game survive too. Um, and again, she was shamed for having, an affair with someone who was like Bill Clinton, like it was with the president. Like she was somehow, she was 22 at that age that I remember. It's like, what? Like, what? you know? Um, the reason, let's say, if we look at young men, young women, if they enter into such situation, the reason we should um, kind of what we the people or we I don't know would have to say is, dude, that could have ended up nasty in terms of violation of your boundaries. Like that could have ended up in a situation where you find it very difficult to protect yourself financially because of this person. That's freaking dangerous, and you're not to blame. Um, and also do understand that there's role play, there is like many things, but um, definitely like you shouldn't be having to watch out for yourself, and like that's the only thing that we could say to the person who was the young person there. Like, hey, that woman might have big power and looking attractive or whatnot, but you also have to be cautious because she also has, if that was reverse gender roles, she also has a networks of supporters, she also has lawyers and so on and so forth. So you gotta be, you gotta make sure that that you're okay. And the best would be is if you do that with people who are in the commitment style that allows for that to begin with, so you're not a secret. You can play on that in fantasies, you can play on that in role play, but the actual reality, you need to be in equal position, you need to be in a situation of commitment that allows it, so you don't become a secret, so you don't become someone that people want to wipe you know under the table, because that level of trust is too much even for a trust king. Okay, that is what was supposed to be said to Monica in that case. Absolutely not the many things that were said. Um, she's by reading about the suicide of Tyler Clementi, Rutgers University freshman involved in cyberbullying. So 2014, 2015, I remember there was a lot of discourse about cyberbullying or legislation around that. There's still ongoing technologies that are developed to prevent leaking of images and so on and so forth. So all that. March 2015, Lewinsky continued to speak out publicly against cyberbullying, delivering a TED Talk for a more compassionate internet. Okay. And became ambassador for strategic advisor for anti-bullying organization by Bystander Revolution. So it seems like she was going through this passage from, okay, let's do talk shows, let's do business, let's do this, let's do that. But she had a bigger role. I wonder about eclipses. Could she be born under an eclipse? Maybe. Not a premonition, not necessarily an heretic degree, but more like it's like it seems like she's looking for herself, not knowing where to find, and then life takes her by surprise, and boom. Um, because her role was to be this spokeswoman. It's like, no, it's not about being a talk show host. No, it's not about, meeting others and selling them, beautiful as they may be, which tend to believe they were very beautiful because she's very skilled, she's very talented. The Mercury Pluto is very intensive. What they do it to the end. And if she's Pluto Virgo, then, of course, anything under her hands. This is a woman who has had skill. It has skill. Um, but the big event was that depth of transformation. Was that, hey, the internet is not supposed to be a shame game. The cameras are meant to expose truth, not to do the world is upside down, not to shame the people who have actually had their boundaries breached. And yes, of course, Pluto is abusive, taking advantage, and so on and so forth. So this process, what you came here to download, okay, this, and Uranus is also mass media, and that's why I expect Uranus to be there too. Okay. 2017. She tweeted the MeToo hashtag to indicate that she was a victim of sexual harassment and or assault, but did not provide much details. And yes, now, this is something very interesting that I don't know, and that was, of course, related to Venus cycle. So, all very Venus cycle. I'm sure if somebody is doing research about Venus cycle, you can do Monica Lewinsky, and I might do a separate episode about that because that would be a great way for me to learn about Venus cycles, just to study this chart. She wrote an essay in March 2018, Issues of Vanity Fair, in which she did not directly explain why she used the MeToo hashtag in October. She did write that looking back at her relationship with Bill Clinton, although it was consensual because he was 27 years older than she and in a position with a lot more power than she, in her opinion, the relationship constituted an abuse of power of Clinton's power. Okay, I'm grateful to read that because this is something that I knew. Like, I was in high school when that case broke out. And along the years, I was kind of like, but this is this is not, this is not. There's just something that, like, no, this is not. And that's, I even remember when I was, with the Me Too in the academia, literally one of the things that I said was like, and which I repent now reading this, was like, I'm not you're not my Bill Clinton, I'm not your Monica Lewinsky. Because back then I remember that she said, well, it was consensual and so on and so forth. And for me it was like, no, I'm not going to go into an affair with you that, like, I don't want to have an affair with you while working with you. No, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to work with you at all. And then there was a lot of anger that bursted up within 1 year. So I'm very, very, very happy she addressed that as a Me Too case. And this is the first time I read about it. And this is, like, to me, it's only the first time I read about it. It's big news because it is a Me Too case. It's a Me Too case. It's a case where, however enticed she was not able to say no, and without risking that there could be implications to saying no. Okay, if you want, like, let's say you're in an organization, we're approaching Pluto and Aquarius, so it's about decentralization, and even if you wanted, let's say, I don't know, you're in an organization that's hierarchical, and you wanted, like, you genuinely were interested in someone, or both of you are genuinely interested, the best thing to do is to separate the working environment so that they can get a new job or you can get a new job. One of you has to be separated so that you're not in conflict of interests, and that they are having support system also in any relationship. Okay, make sure your partner has support system outside of you, people that don't know you. Like, I know a lot of people or couples are afraid of that. Like, yeah, people can interfere and so and so and so, but also if shit hits the fan and you need to separate or you need to take time off or you need, like, things that happen in relationships, you need each to have the support system. You can't be everything to each other. This is a no-go. Okay, this is like, and the same goes for, of course, a workplace. So that's just, that's just whether you're a man who cares or a woman who cares, because we have women in high in key positions. They can also have desires. And yes, as an astrologer, I know that Saturn ruling the fifth, ruling the seventh, Saturn Venus has age gap. Can have either age gap or some sort of teaching element to do, because Saturn is teacher, somebody that is older, somebody maybe other skin color, because Saturn rules the skin. But I know that those cases can happen. Like, not every age gap relationship is abusive. I don't want to condone people who are like genuinely serious about each other and just have an age gap. And there has to be a creative way to do that. Just like, it's the putting a condom of relationships in an organization. Like, you got to be a gentleman or a gentlewoman. You got to care for your sexual partner. Even if it's sexual partner, even if it's nothing more, you got to care for your sexual partner. You got to care for their well-being. You got to care that they're safe. You got to care that you manage this in a way that you're both safe and you both enjoy the ride, right? That's how it's got to be. And if there's money and wealth involved, then yeah, you got to be in power. You got to be two people. And this is very, the timing of Venus, Pluto in Capricorn is very much involving this, finances, money, organization, the big wealth, the legislative meaning of, getting turned on together. So yeah. She added that she had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder due to what she had experienced after the relationship was disclosed. Naturally, right? In May 2018, Lewinsky was distinctively disinvited from an event hosted by Town & Country when Bill Clinton accepted the invitation to the event. So again, it was another shock, another trauma. It's like so many years after, and they choose the perpetrator. And he was like, unfortunately, yes, he is perpetrator. Just the saying that, she laid it all out there, or kind of like addressing that as, she was there for the taking, that shows this is the thought of the perpetrator. It's not the thought of a man who is there, to enjoy sexual pleasure with someone, huh? Still, she was such a gentlewoman all the years, so modest, so kind, so trying to make the best of it, so trying to find herself, and like, hey, not to throw the blame at him. It's like, hey, this happened. Let's make this lemon a lemonade. Let's do something. Let's keep advancing myself. I own my sexuality. I own my this. Like, she was the mature person. And this role reversal, unfortunately, happens a lot in places where, there's a power gap. And this is not a gender thing. It's a power thing. Because right now it was like for men, but with women on top, it's like it's the same. They have. This is why we need decentralization. It's like moving to Aquarius. Lewinsky spoke at the conference in Jerusalem, September 2018. Following her speech, she sat for a Q&A session with the host, Nit Levy, who's famous Israeli journalist. I might do a chart as well, so I'm marking this down. The first question Levy asked was whether Lewinsky thinks that Clinton owes her a private apology. Lewinsky refused to answer the question and walked off the stage. Yeah, because like, hey, there's a human being in front of you. And I'm not blaming Yonit Levy, because this is something you need to understand in journalism. The questions are dictated to you, and you have agreed. This is also why I did not become journalist in Israel. If you disagree to ask a question, you can be thrown out. Okay, and this is not what journalism is about to me. Okay, I see myself as an agent that needs to have their own autonomy and sovereignty as I do what I do. So I'm not blaming Yonit Levy for that. It's just like, to be journalist, she had to pay that price, and she could not ask this question first because of the pressure of the editorials and so on and so forth. So don't turn the flame directly at her. Turn the flame on the white man in power who decided that she will ask this question, or be deprived of the ability to pursue her passion in career. So of course, Monica Lewinsky was like, hey, I buzz off from that. She later tweeted that the question was posted in the pre-event meeting with Levy, and Lewinsky told her that such a question was off limits. Again, you can see the I'm sorry, but you can see the powerful, I'm sorry, but it's not Yonit Levy. There's a stupid man behind the scenes that's pushing for this question, putting two women, not one, but two women, in a situation where they have to collide there. And of course, Yonit had to, contact the editorial, which she said, well, you gotta ask this question or else, and she will have to ask this question, even though she hated that. So this is, this is sexual violation, because it's about pitting two women against each other, looking to see what happens and putting them both in a position where they're forced to be in. This is another form of sexual violation, by the way. Okay, it's not always direct. And to get that, you really need to understand the dynamic of power. It is so gross, it is so unsexy, it is so unattractive, and bleh, it's like, but that's what we're dealing with. Yeah. So a spokesman for the Israeli television news company, which hosted the conference and is Levy's employer, responded that Levy had kept all the agreements made with Lewinsky and under her requests. I don't know who this person is. I don't know his name. I'm not, like I said, when I decided not to do something, then I didn't look like, I was not interviewed to work there, but it was like, I just, I stopped at high school. That was not the way to go. But definitely I would not be surprised if there were the Me Too cases with his name on. I would not be surprised. I don't even know who he is, so you can't say this and that. I have no idea who the person is, but I would not be surprised if we'd hear of Me Too cases around with his name, because this behavior is so brutal, aggressive, and sexually aggressive that is dude, I don't. I count on the gentlemen to act. That's what I'm saying. I count on women to act. 2019. She was interviewed by John Oliver on his HBO show Last Week's Tonight with John Oliver, where they discussed the importance of solving the problem of public shaming and how her situation may have been different if social media had existed at the time that the scandal broke in the 1990s. Maybe, maybe not. It's a political culture thing. It's not just the media, okay? yes, we hear more voices, but hey, algorithm, Facebook's becoming very centralized and so on and so forth. Same with Twitter. We're having these talks. There is a political culture, and yes, there is a role for the media, a very big role for the media, but it's also what the media can and can't do. For example, the Unique Levy case, where she was like, well, she was gonna have to ask this question. Okay, and there's, a white bully man behind that question, pushing over and over again. Then you're like, you know, get lost and respect the person you're interviewing. So, more recently, she stated Alt ending production with the first, I guess it's book deal in the 20th television. August 6, 2019. Okay, we're already in 2019. It was announced that the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal would be the focus of the third season of the television series American Crime Story, with the title Impeachment. The season began in production in 2020. Okay, this is already a different framing. And this is already the framing of crime. Okay? Not I cheated on my wife crime, which of course is violation of boundaries. But the title or the framing is edited for a series about crimes. And so, the season began production in October 2020. What a terrible time to produce something. That was probably the COVID. So I assuming COVID is going to go in the way. And this is the Neptune part already. I said this is the framework of Pluto, Neptune, the Pluto-Neptune sextile. So that's the framework that we have for that. It's like something Plutonian is happening, and then Neptune. And also right now with the Mars, Neptune, right? This Mars is doing his thing, it's Gemini, and then Neptune comes in. It's like, poof. Interferes with the directness. As preparing us for Pluto moving into a Uranus phase. Okay, Uranus, nonlinear, chaotic, dynamic, unpredictable, but also does have certain rules, certain attractors, certain threshold, certain dynamic of the system. And then the Mars Neptune, which I spoke previously in previous episodes, where we have this, Mars linear, fast in Gemini, quick, go, go, go. And then Neptune kind of comes and poof, interferes with this linear system, drives it a bit nuts. So that's another, Uranus moving into Gemini in the next 2 years, like in the upcoming 2 years. Yeah. Lewinsky was co-producer. It consists of 10 episodes, premiered on September 7, 2021. The season portrays, well, the kudos to that. Like they managed to do a season during COVID. The season portrays the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal and is based on a book, A Vast Conspiracy, the real story of the sex scandal that nearly brought down the president, by Jeffrey Toobin. The 28-year-old actress Beanie Feldstein plays Monica Lewinsky, so it became a movie. So this is another testimonial of Lewinsky. I think the first thing that went out the door in 1998, this should be a Venus cycle. Let's do it again. 1998, so 8 years from 1998 would be 2006. Yes. 2006, 8 years would be, 2014. Huh? And then 2014, 8 years would be 2020, 14 to be 2022 to 22. And here I am concluding, 22. Venus cycles. It's a Venus-Pluto conjunction cycle. Yeah. So, I think that the first thing went out the door in 1998 was the truth, and the second was context. And there's no nuance. And we are all women who we thrust into the spotlight underneath a political film or sheen. And we are all reduced. Sheen. Was heißt? Oh, shine. Sheen? Okay. And we're all reduced. We were all reduced. We were all reduced in different ways to serve purpose for other people, for either political points or to make money. This is true, and I tend to predict that as the Rahu delves into Aries, we're going to see a lot of men raging about that. And I was thinking, construction builders, we had it in the World Cup, or the way, men fought for liberation, and because of Aries, there can be the marginalized society, so certain genders or other people fighting to be able to say I am, not because I serve you, but because I am and I have a place in the world. And so the Venus-Pluto context is the Venusian, okay, women doing that. But then it might be good to look at the Mars cycles, some synodic cycles, to see what happens with men rights, men evolution, and men rights not as a response to women, but as just being themselves, like regardless of being service or being, an employee or a builder and so on and so forth. So she definitely describes a correct situation in an organization, a hierarchical organization. And then when it was patriarchal, from the word, patrons, patriarchy, but patriarchy, from the church, from the patrons that owned slaves, owned the creative artists as well. So we also saw, unfortunately, we saw gays being talked about as the patrons that violate the artist in patronage relationships. And so unfortunately, historically, that stream of discourse gave the illusion that being gay is somehow being a violator. It's not at all the case. This violation is not about sex and so on and so forth. So the predictions. So like I said, Uranus, something to do with the luminaries, hard aspect in the luminaries, because the sun and moon. Pluto Virgo, that's we know, this is not a prediction. Because of the time frame when she was born, so it's be the end of Pluto in Virgo, maybe the beginning of Pluto. It can be the beginning of Pluto. It's either way a Pluto-Venus conjunction, I believe. Also, this is why I'm speaking about it during the Pluto-Venus conjunction. So Pluto-Venus conjunction probably in Virgo or in the beginning of Libra. And it can be the beginning of Libra. And we recently had a Venus Cazimi in Libra earlier last year. We're already in 2023 as I speak without even noticing. So that is to be expected, definitely. I believe that's Pluto-Venus conjunction with the hard aspect to Mercury. Where would Mercury be? Probably Mercury is prominent, and because of the Mercury Uranus, this Mercury and Uranus can be in contact with each other. The ninth and the 10th are in contact with each other. Um, and those things were happening around a Venus Pluto cycle, a Venus cycle of 8 years, where she was returning to that position. I believe that position with Pluto, and deeply transforming. And for Monica, I believe she was also born under the shade of an eclipse. Might not be on the day, but definitely the shade of eclipse. The reason being is because it's both the Pluto, the Pluto square that is doing something, but also if it's Pluto Libra, then Pluto Sagittarius will be the Pluto square, and I believe that it's the beginning, like either 0 degree Libra or 29 degree. It can be 29 degree. It can be Pluto on the 29 degree of Virgo. But I suspect it also to be with Libra, because Pluto is very prominent in her chart. The Pluto Scorpio, the Pluto square for her was so pivotal. The way she'd been living, she could no longer live that way. And her journey with Pluto is so impressive. I also believe there to be a Rahu with Pluto. Yeah, I believe there to be a Rahu with Pluto. This is a far-fetched one, like I don't know, because or for Pluto to be very prominent in her chart. Let's look at the chart. So, and this is also why I'm doing that today, because I wanted to do Monica Lewinsky without Clinton, but no, it is central because it is the pivotal moment in her life that is central. So it's not that Bill Clinton is the important, but he was an X in an equation in Monica Lewinsky's life that cannot be ignored, because that exposure was fated. It was a good event, the way I see it. And I talked about the context of Pluto Neptune. Monica Lewinsky's birth chart. So 23rd July 1973, Sun and Leo. I do want, okay, let's do the asteroids, because that would give me both Lilith and, yeah, I wanted the degrees too. So, okay, so she has ascendant Libra with Uranus. It's not conjunction, but it's not too far from the ascendant. Yeah, let's see what grade is the chart. I can't see it here. Yeah, it's from AstroSeek. Mars with Chiron in Aries. So Mars in Aries in the 7th house with Chiron, oppositioning that Uranus. And Aries with the descendant, which I think is interesting. Sedna in Taurus, of course, in the 8th house. And the moon in Taurus, yes, the moon is, yes, so her moon, I believe yeah. So, yes, the moon was crossing, and I was waiting for the Jupiter hour of today. And then, so the moon is definitely, she had a lunar return yesterday or earlier today, in the 8th house in Taurus. Pluto. Okay, now I see it. Pluto squares Saturn. So Pluto is in the 1st house. I said Pluto Venus. So this is a prediction that I didn't get right, because I was sure it's going to be a Pluto conjunct Venus. No, it's Pluto in a Venus sign in the 2nd degree of Libra. And I was sure I was going to see a Pluto hard aspect in Mercury. Again, wrong. It is not even aspecting Mercury. Okay, she has Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Mercury, though, squares Uranus. So, like I said, Mercury squares is a hard aspect of Uranus. Mercury also hard aspects. And yet another thing that was not borne out was the Uranus to the luminaries. No, it is to Mars in the seventh house, which is also the ruler of the seventh. So Pluto is ruled by Venus. Yes, there is a Pluto Venus, but this is Pluto in Venus domain. It's not a conjunction. Okay, so it's not a conjunction. And what's happening with this Pluto, it trines the sun. So, of course, a solar figure in the 11th with Vesta. Okay, and Vesta is what we dedicate ourselves to. So this is also can also be interpreted as the power of Vesta in the 11th. Mercury is and this one was right. Mercury, the ruler of the ninth, is in the 10th house with a lot of fortune. Okay, so a lot of fortune, both her health and well-being, and wealth, or the lack of, were very much associated with the Mercury. This Mercury retrograde is reflective Mercury, and I'm doing this episode when Mercury is retrograde, but in the other polarity in Capricorn. Rahu is not in the 29th degree, so this was not. Lilith, I will look at the aspects soon. But why did I say, when I saw it, Pluto, ruled by Venus, is, oh, wow, I said there's a lot of outer planets here, is square to Saturn. Is it Saturn in the 29th degree of Gemini? In Gemini. So Saturn is ruled by Mercury and Pluto is ruled by Venus. So the way I was identifying correctly, there's stuff there, but Saturn is the structure of communication. Square to Pluto is now Saturn Pluto square is very difficult aspect. Saturn Pluto, we're living within another cycle of a Pluto Saturn conjunction, and the nodes that the Saturn and Pluto nodes are on the axis of Capricorn Cancer, which is a very difficult axis for them to be. Okay, so we're living within the range of the Pluto Saturn conjunction, and their nodes are still in Capricorn. Okay, every planet has a node, it's not just the moon, and that is, structural changes that take years upon years, decades upon decades, sometimes eras, right? So Venus herself is in Leo, sextiling Saturn, but squaring Neptune. And here I was right, there was a Neptune hard aspect. Now let's the luminaries. The Sun opposition Jupiter, a Sun in Leo with Vesta. So Vesta gives us dedication. She was very dedicated to these solar figures that she was infatuated in, and became eventually a solar figure herself. Ceres is with Pluto, and Ceres is about the children. So she deals with bullying for child bullying. I don't know here. Like, I would need to understand this Ceres and how she operates with Neptune. Like this is beyond the scope of what I can make a delineation for. That's based on anything right now. Jupiter retrogrades. Yes, so fifth house, the rulers of the fifth, the ruler of the fifth in the ninth, of course. This is another thing that was right. Here, the ruler of the fifth, the traditional ruler, Saturn, okay, ruler in Aquarius, is in the ninth house, gives us this connection between affairs and higher studies, and working abroad, being abroad, a philosophy, worldview. Okay, our first change of worldview. And then, yeah, ruler of the 12th in the 7th. Is it? No. Ruler of the 2nd in the 7th. Okay. Ruler of the 2nd in the 7th. So gaining from the wounded relationships. Okay. So the second material gained from your skill. So her skill was a relationship, but there was some wound. So it's like skill. Mars also, it fixes something broken. So healing the Mars wound in relationships, like there was some skill that she had, but that was tied to her wounding with Martian figures, and then that gained her money eventually. Like that was what she could make money from, but the ability to make money was also wounded, okay, because of Chiron with Mars. So Mars ruling both the 7th and the 2nd. And Saturn is also ruling the 4th. The moon, yeah. Well, the moon is exalted in Scorpio, in Taurus. It is squaring Jupiter, a retrograde Jupiter. I don't know. And it is applying to square, it's loosely applying to square the sun. Okay, so if we don't, like, I believe we have the right hour, but it's loosely applying to square the sun. But the moon is not making any aspects that are, could be suspected as something. But let me see here. Does it include, because Uranus here, okay, no. Moon in conjunct Uranus. The moon in conjunct Uranus. It's not listed here. I think it doesn't have in conjuncts. Let's see if it lists it here. Okay, Sedna squares Sun. Okay, she was betrayed by the solar figures that she was dedicated to. In this case, Bill Clinton. She was said she had an affair, and then he betrayed her. But then leaving her to be the goddess of the underworld. Okay, protecting, fighting against shaming people. Sedna conjunct Moon. Okay, this is a loose conjunction. But that means that, with both the Sun and Moon difficult aspects to Sedna, then yeah, that's tremendous psychological effect, and the way it affected those betrayal is affected to how she sees the world. She trines Venus and squares Jupiter. Was there another thing I wanted to see here? Was Vesta squares Moon. Trines Neptune, sextiles Pluto. I don't know what to make of it. A Ceres trines Sun. A Ceres square Venus. Okay, I don't know. Now this is the asteroids. I have a connection between Psyche and the nodes. Eros sextile the midheaven. Okay, so I know there is an asteroid there. Okay, Pallas sextiles Lilith, but I want to look at Lilith. What is Lilith doing? Let's see. Lilith. So Lilith's Venus, opposition Saturn. I said there's something going to be with Lilith. Okay, opposition Saturn. Listen, the way I see it is that this nature was in conflict with the structure. Okay, she was there to follow her desires. Okay, but the structure had to change so that she can follow her desires. And if the man wants to follow her desire, his desire with her, and they both want it, okay, but the structure has to change. And this is Lilith opposition Saturn. Lilith squares Pluto. I said, strong Lilith here. Strong Lilith. It's the first time I make prediction with Lilith, but this prediction was borne out. So that is very interesting. Okay, this tension, Pluto powers. Where was her Pluto again? I think it was Libra. Yes, it was Libra. Tremendous chart, because she was a woman who was sent here on a role that is very difficult to feel. And the ruler of the midheaven in the 8th, okay, so around, even though it's exalted in Taurus, it's still around trauma, around betrayal, all those things that they're not easy to handle. I said I wanted the degrees here. Let's see, extended. Can you show me degrees A minor aspects? Okay, let's do all the minor aspects, and yeah, but that would be a lot. Well, that's all it had for True Lilith. Oh, yeah. Whole sign houses. I like it, but I want the degrees. Please give me the degrees. Okay, it has in the tabella. In the tabella, Moon in conjunct Pluto. Oh, but I was sure it's like it applies to in conjunct Uranus. I can't treat it. No, this is wrong. Like my prediction was around Uranus and the luminaries was wrong, but it does hard aspect, Mars, Mercury, and Neptune. Again, the Mars between Media and Uranus that had to be mitigated and took many years because the outer planets are heavily involved in this chart. So yeah, Lilith here is in Capricorn. Okay, there's a difference between Lilith and true Lilith. It's like a point, and yeah, okay. And let's see this true Lilith where if I make predictions, then let's look at true Lilith. Yeah, opposition Sun, opposition Mercury, a biquintile Venus, which is the hard aspect, squares Mars, squares Uranus, big Lilith, octile Neptune, square Chiron, again, Chiron, square, and Chiron squares Mercury, and so on. So Chiron squares Mercury. Okay, these are important things. Okay. So Lilith is the desirous nature, is the instinctive nature of someone. That was, if you look at Black Moon Lilith, supposing Saturn, if you look at True Lilith, we already see she's already hard aspecting the personal planets. So the desirous nature does not intermesh with the people in her life. A distinctive nature, which unfortunately played the role of people wanted to take advantage of that, or to abuse that, or to misuse that. And all around her, she grew up around this. Oh, you are not okay. You are like, you cheated. He cheated. And the age gap and so on and so forth. This gives me the houses. I want the planets. Saturn is almost in the 29th. It's 2857. Would you call that an anoretic degree? Because definitely when she's changing in Saturn, definitely we're at the end of Pluto in Saturn ruled sign to another Saturn ruled sign. And this is so, There's something so timely there. And this is 28 degree of Gemini. This is interesting. Would that be counted an heretic degree? Because she came to change that structure. Here the notes. So these are the degrees. Sun on 0 degree area, Leo, which is again an important degree. It's the beginning of something. So Sun, it's ingress. So the ingress, in any ingress, the important things happen during an ingress, and then the rest of the thing is learning from them or evolving from them. And definitely the Sun is also leaders, and we've seen how that played a role in her chart. I wanted to see around eclipses. This is 23rd July 1973. Do I have eclipses here? This is aspects, house system. No, so let's go to eclipses. And 23rd July 1973. Let's put the little icon, the little Shirley icon here, and eclipses. Eclipses. I wanted eclipses. Oh, it gave me the Gregorian calendar. Is that eclipses? What's happening? Just give me eclipse. Where? Just eclipses. Mercury, right? So this is 2022, 1973. Where have I landed? 2390. Okay. Okay, my phone is beginning to play. Okay, 43. Where are you? Oh, there it is. So this is lunar eclipses for in 70s, and this is 1973. We had lunar eclipses on July 73. And she was born on July 23. So let's look at the solar ones, because July 15, that would mean she's within the range of eclipses, not on an eclipse, but and the eclipse is on Capricorn, Saturn ruled. Saturn is the closest to the anaretic degree by hers. And let's go to the solar eclipses, please. Yeah. 73. So that would be June. Okay, so that she's within the range. It's 15 and then 23. She's within the range of an eclipse. It's not tight, but she's within the range. She's definitely an outer planet. I call it outer planet girl. Okay, she's definitely as a person whose fate was very much affected by the other planets. She's very much coming to bring something beyond the self. And had a difficult play. You know, she really had a difficult role to play. And just this lengthy isolation that her, like the lengthy isolation that she was even with herself, to look at her case from, you know, the perspective of, don't tell me we're still Jupiter hour. It's 2 hours Jupiter hour. Sun. Yeah. So this is today right now's chart. So she had such a big role to play when the moon is separating from the sun. Yeah. So again, it is the moon that got me to talk about her, I believe. Um, and the sun, the moon and sun making an aspect, definitely within the range of, Pluto, Venus, absolutely. Lilith in 29 degrees. I made my first prediction around Lilith. It was successful even, that Lilith would play part in this chart. Um, yes. And what I like to do is to see, I just take a look at how her chart interacts with mine. So when I am looking at her chart, what am I looking at and how am I seeing that, what she brings to my chart. So I can't put a synastry here, but my chart is out there, so you can do it yourself. So she brings the ascendant and Uranus and Pluto to my eighth house, and Mars with Chiron to my second house, and now we're Chiron direct. Uh, and this is a second house. Yeah, it's not on my Mercury, but it's yeah, quite interesting. And indeed, I remember that when I was in high school, I remember that case. It kept reiterating, and something in me knew that something was not right in the way that it was viewed since a very young age. But I could not express that, the loneliness of not being able to see anybody seeing what you're seeing. Um, so she brings the moon applying to conjunct my sun, okay, 5 degrees away, more than 5 degrees away, and separating from conjunction with my Venus. This was between my sun and my Venus in the third house. And again, when the moon was crossing her moon, then I spoke about her eventually, finally. It was building up. Then at first I thought, oh, I should not talk about, like, I want to talk about her, not the Clinton case. And I was like, yes, but this is that prominent in her life. Um, and of course, yeah. So Saturn to my Juno, what is it? Yeah, something like that, to my fourth house. Which is funny because I got two calls from home, which I had to decline during this recording. When I think about it, so she brought Saturn to my home, and like, somebody was calling me. It was not urgent, and then they didn't know I'm recording, so I just had to decline two calls from home while recording. It's funny. Um, and she brings, yeah, this ghetto, this ghetto to my fifth house with Mercury, her lot of fortune. To my sixth house, she brings the Sun and Venus. Um, yeah, well, aspects. Pluto, well, probably, I look at Neptune more because Neptune is the more liable to be misguided, and her Neptune does apply to conjunct my Ketu. Um, I think it's about letting go here, like letting go of something. This is something that I learned about when I was in high school. So there's a letting go. So I don't think it's necessarily, because it's with keto, I don't think it's necessarily something that would masquerade. I'm beginning to get exhausted. um, what else? She brings Lilith to my midheaven? Yeah, she brings Lilith to conjunct my midheaven. Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. Um, Jupiter retrograde in my harshly aspected in my 12th. So again, increasing issues of the 12th house, increasing reflection of the 12th house, secret, like secret bed pleasures, but also things that happen in the bedroom, things that happen secretly. And I have 12th in the 10th, which I always addressed as the modern ruler. Okay, uh, let's see where's the ruler of the. Yeah, she has the ruler of the 12th in the 10th, and that is Mercury. For me, Uranus and Saturn in the ninth. But yes, now that I see it, yes, I call it the Bill Clinton yoga, because you cannot keep hidden what is in the 12th. And when I think about it, one of the things that I did following what happened to me in the academia was completely exposing everything to do with my sexuality, my thoughts, my problems, my complexes, both to heal, but also it was an act of rebellion. As I will not be shamed for that, I'm not ashamed for what I'm dealing with, and so on and so forth. So in my time there was Facebook, so there was social media, and that was about, wait, I don't want it to be around that person. In my case it was sexual harassment. um, uh, yeah, but it was like, I don't want that to be about the person, about like, let's delve into me, let's delve into the things, where would I like to be more satisfied in bed, and so on and so forth, like what sex life do I want. um, and that was a way to deal with that. um, and yeah, and this is why I call the ruler of the 12th in the 10th the Bill Clinton configuration. The Clinton configuration, I don't know if Clinton has it. Monica Lewinsky definitely has it, because what's in the 12th is going to pop out in the 10th. For example, when I channel, I half channel. I'm not really in control of that. And you see my mannerisms change, my voice, the tone of my voice changes, and I just had to radically accept myself. Same with Lewinsky. She had to radically accept myself. And that was public, okay? You can't hide it. Um, so for her, it was radically different things. But the notion that radical acceptance needed at every turn is a guide to dealing with that. And that can be, something that takes another path. Um, yeah. So I don't have a synastry here, option to do synastry with this chart in mind. What is partners? It's just, what is partners? Oh, come on. It's not a partner. Um, not mad about astroseekers, just like, um, yeah. So I don't think I see her in an ideal way, nor do I think I devalue her. Okay, although she has Neptune opposition my Rahu, but this just means that there was something that, like, letting go of, or letting go of the story that's related, and with Lilith around my midheaven, um, then it's very strange to have, Ketu in the same house of your midheaven. If people have it conjunct, then I don't know at all how do they manage to live. Um, but this Lilith with the midheaven is kind of like, that story forced me to do a part of what they came here to do through discussing that Lilith. And that is beyond the scope of my being able to understand or process now. Like I said, I'm Me Too veteran myself from academia. Um, and yeah, and I also understand deeply her desire to say, well, there are certain things or certain affairs that were consensual to her, and she said, well, I don't want to expose, like, um, Like, I don't want to say that something that I wanted was not something that I wanted, but I also understand that there was abuse, that there was taken advantage of. Um, and that is something I relate more to what I've been through with psychotherapy. That it was important for me not to talk about experiences that I had that were consensual as non-consensual, but also to address the breaching of my boundaries, and the understanding that in retrospective, unfortunately, um, that was not a circumstances, and that was not a person that I could trust in those circumstances or in those situations, even within like trust king or whatnot. So I totally like feel related to her in a different way. Like, I didn't feel related to her when I was in high school. I was just feeling angry about Bill Clinton, for taking advantage of her. But you know, it was kind of like, okay, I can feel related to wanting to set the boundaries, but also not wanting to deprive myself of my own experience that were consensual. Um, it's like, hey, my sex life is not yours for the taking. My experience is something that I own, and hey, like, I manifest that, and that's sex for me. Um, yeah. So I can see that connection, that relation. Um, what would her Pluto be doing relative to my charts? It's the beginning. Well, her Pluto will oppose my Lilith. No, not really. Apply to oppose. Lilith is separating from Pluto. And right now, little Lilith is separating from an opposition to Pluto. So, okay. Um, so this outer planet is also not being problematic. My own Venus is separating from an inconjunct to Pluto, to her Pluto. Okay, so yeah, I don't think it masquerades with. I don't see like a Mercury thing that would make things. Yeah, so I don't think I'm biased in the way that I see her. I don't think I idealize her. I don't think I devalue her. Um, that's that. That's that. So yes, with the one thing that it took time for me to talk about this, um, and I was again, and the way I see it now, it was not time. It was the Pluto Venus conjunction that had to be in Capricorn here. Um, that and she told, like, she was doing stuff about changing the worldview around the structure of the media and the effect of mass media. And again, Uranus in her first house, connecting to her first house, very sudden, takes of event. And again, the within eclipse range, um, the effect on the personal planets, and so on and so forth. So that was finally during Monica Lewinsky's chart. I made an experiment to record in on the way, uh, and that's an interesting experiment. I don't have the recording devices to do that with the winds that are going on outside, so I don't know if that was so successful. Um, but I hope I paid, good respect to this chart. Um, and yeah, like this is a story of the way people were treated, and a story about a very powerful and strong person, powerful, strong woman, um, who had a process of growth, a process of transformation that was very difficult, painstaking, step by step by step by step by step, to even grasp at the depths of what the heck is going on. Um, so, yes, that's sad, and I believe that there's a lot we don't know about her still, but it's up to her to reveal it or not, and definitely not for me to look at or delineate. So that was Monica Lewinsky's chart, and that was Spirit of Matter. I do have a Patreon if you want to feed me, which I would appreciate it, and growing plants and yeah, feeding cats and so on, and feeding myself. Important. That's important. Um, so after my next episode, and to 2023.